In studio, I have with me, he is back. Michael Woods Jr. is back. And I say he's back because I've had him on my radio show before, and then on the Fallen States, and now he's back in studio. Michael Woods Jr. is a police. He's a police management scholar, speaker, former Baltimore police officer, U.S. Marine Corps veteran, and author of a book, Crime and Punishment in the 21st Century. And we're going to tell you how to get the book and more about the book. Michael, thank you for coming back.
Thanks for letting me be here. And who wouldn't want to be with the Slutmaker on a wonderful Friday
Slutmaker! And Michael is referring every year, the last couple of years or so, there's been what do you call it?
Slut walk.
A slut walk, where the sluts want to take the shame out of being sluts. Amber Rose is the head of the one in L.A. And so Michael's referring to that. You can check that out on the fatherstate.tv. Michael, what do you think about the sluts?
I don't know how much I thought about the sluts. But, I mean, if you're a single man, I suppose I'm pro-slut.
Would you marry a slut?
No.
You would not marry a slut?
No.
Amazing. And what do you think about the idea that they want to remove the shame of being sluts?
Sure. I mean, I guess everybody could do what they want. Why shame them? I guess the shame would go on the dude that married the slut, right?
So should you take away the shame of being a slut?
I don't know. I haven't thought much about that. I don't know why we would need it to have shame. I mean, they can have their choice because they're going to have the consequences of their actions regardless of our shame.
Because shame is good for you. It helps you realize that you're wrong. And in some cases, you change as a result of realizing you're wrong because you're ashamed of what you become.
Yeah, I'm not going to fight too hard on that. I think you could be right, but I don't know. I think people could do what they want to do as long as they're not infringing on somebody else.
Okay. Mike, are you a Christian?
No.
You're not a Christian?
No. Have you ever heard my saying, I'm an atheist doing my best, Jesus?
Really?
Yeah.
So you're an atheist. Have you ever been a Christian?
I mean, I was too young to say. So I went to Catholic school for a couple years, and I wasn't even an altar boy, rang the little bell and everything.
Right.
But I can't say, I mean, I have tried. I've been around Pentecostals. I've gone to churches and been members. I just couldn't get into the organized part, I guess, more than anything.
Were your parents Christian? Are your parents Christians?
No. I wouldn't. I mean, they would be the ones who would be like, I believe in God, but, you know, the non-Christian Christians.
Right. So they're atheists as well?
I don't even know if they would say it.
But you believe that they are?
Oh, of course, yeah.
You believe that your parents are atheists?
Yeah, yes.
Were you raised by both father and mother?
Mainly my mother.
Mainly your mother. Oh, I have noticed that most atheists were not raised by their fathers, and I'm starting to believe that's why they're atheists. Because if you don't love your father, you can't love God.
Well, I mean, I love everybody. I love my father. So I'm not really worried about that. But there is some certain truth in that. The most likely reason, even scientifically, that you would be a religion is because your parents were. And the data doesn't say because your parent was. It says because your parents were.
Right.
So there's probably some truth to that completely.
Most of the time, though, it's the mother who get you involved in church and not the father.
Yeah, obviously, I don't know.
Yeah, but most of the time, that's the case. So you're married?
Yes.
You have children?
Yes.
Really?
One daughter.
Amazing. And are you the head?
Is it amazing that I had sex and had a daughter? Or?
I didn't know you were married.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And are you the head of your wife?
Am I the head of the household?
No.
Yeah.
No,
sure.
are you the head of your wife, not the household?
I mean, she can do what she wants. She probably sets that paradigm actually more than I do. So, I mean, yeah, I'm in charge of the house. I make the decisions, but...
Are you the head of your wife?
Sure.
Are you the head of your wife?
Sure.
Sure?
Yeah.
Are you an Indian?
I mean, she's in Phoenix. I'm not sure she wanted to be, so I guess if you measure it up.
You made her stay home?
No, she came with me in Phoenix from the East Coast. So, I mean...
I see. Did you... someone want to know, are you part Indian? You look like you're part of something.
Yes.
Part Indian?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah, but I mean,
the ones with the feathers?
Yeah, but I mean, I don't follow the practices, so I don't think it really matters. And I'm totally agreeing with you that I'm American. That's what I am.
Right. Amazing. And so the last time we talked, matter of fact, you're known for supporting Black Lives Matter and opposing the Dakota Access Pipeline. Do you still feel that way? You support Black Lives Matter?
I support the concept of Black Lives Matter too. My problem is it really went into Black Lives Matter only. I think over the last year and a half that you and I have spoken, I've been around the liberal media, I've been behind the scenes,
Yeah.
and they are all complete rats. And I kind of betrayed my principles with you, and that's one of the reasons why I wanted to talk to you. I wanted to apologize because I didn't hear you out. I listened to more people on the streets over the last year and a half. I've seen the change with the Democratic Party and with Trump being in president. And I see a lot more of what you were saying that I should have paid attention to beforehand. And I understand this is an entertainment deal and you have to do entertaining things, but I was letting that cloud what you were really saying, things about like racism not existing in the country,
Right.
things about it becoming Black Lives Matter only, the Democratic plantation. I get what you're saying now.
Amazing. Well, I accept your apology.
Thanks.
That's amazing. I'm glad that you can see now.
Well, I'm not completely conceding on certain issues.
I said
but-
that you can see.
Oh,
You
concede.
started
Yeah,
to-
sure. I mean, I'll certainly agree that a lot of that happened. And I think you can credit your great white hope for some of that seeing.
The Great White Hope.
But it's just that when, for instance, when I saw you about a year ago at Politicon, when no cameras were around, there was no credit that was going to go to you. You embraced me with warmth and kindness.
Yes.
And I'm telling you, I haven't seen that from any of the hundreds or thousands of liberal media interviews I've done.
Amazing.
So I don't know. It really just did a lot to bring out to light what is going on in this country with what you're saying. Like, it's supposed to be a shock when I say that the system of policing it has racist outcomes. That's supposed to shock you, and you're supposed to object because the racism isn't there in the surface on our culture. So if it's not people outwardly and overtly racist, you should be shocked when I say that police are doing racist things. And it should take me explaining a lot of different things to you. Once you're accepting racism on the surface, I don't know what's happening here.
When you call them rats, what do you mean? What have you seen that would allow you to realize that these people are rats?
Well, I mean, they're not principled at all. I would
Yeah.
have to say that Kavanaugh was my absolute breaking point.
Yes.
The way they treated that man on a public stage with something with no evidence was, I mean, it sounds cliche, and I've heard a lot of other people say it, but I mean, that can be anybody's child, husband's, son, like whatever.
That's right.
Like that is to run somebody through like that in a completely unprincipled matter, forgetting everything that happened to Bill Clinton and everything that he did, everything that Al Franken or who's that the guy now, the Democratic one that just got forget he's
the
been
black
accused.
guy.
Yeah.
I can't think of his name, but he's hot. They voted for him,
Right.
And he was accused of being violent to a woman or something.
Right. So all of those things where are the principles?
Yes, they have none.
Mm-hmm.
And then what they did to Kavanaugh and other men, they'll do it to you too.
Of course.
At the blinking of an eye, they'll do it to you too. Amazing! I got to take a break. More with Michael Wood Jr. and his book when we come back. Back in a moment. So Michael Wood Jr. is here, and Michael is a former Baltimore police officer as well. Now that you're waking up and you're overcoming being a beta male,
Did you just call me a beta male?
how do you see the Baltimore Police Department now? Because before, if I remember correctly, you thought that they were racist and that they were unfair to the blacks and all that. Do you still see it that way?
I think some of my messaging got lost in that. I think the system of policing has racist outcomes. I do not think we're talking about racist cops as intent, as the person of what they're doing. So, I mean, a lot of things are that way. One quick example is the crack cocaine disparity people talk about all the time as being racist. And they think it has a racist intent, but it didn't. It had a racist outcome. So
What does racist outcome mean?
So this is the example. So the majority of crack was in the black community, and cocaine was in the white community. And so the feds were looking at is targeting mid-level dealers, which sounds like something smart to do. You want to put mid-level dealers away for
Right.
a long time. The problem is because of the income disparities of the black community and the white community and resource access, which it's just historic legacy stuff, then you ended up with mid-level dealers of cocaine had like 100 pounds of cocaine, but mid-level dealers of crack had small amounts of crack because of their disparity. So you end up enforcing something with a racist outcome, but you have no intention.
But that's not racist if blacks can't afford a lawyer. Once they get caught for smoking crack, then they should smoke the crack.
Sure, but
white people tend to be able to afford, like O.J. Simpson, right? He was black, but he could afford a lawyer, the best lawyers. So he ended up winning this case with Nicole Brown and the other guy I can't think of.
Sure, that could set up an oligarchy where the elite have separate rules.
But that's not racist. Black people shouldn't do crack. And so there's not even a racist intent within the police department because
not an
if
intent.
Most black people are doing crack because they can't afford the real deal and a lawyer, then you're going to jail.
Sure, but those are two separate approaches. So my job and need is to provide a fair service for everyone because you're all paying for it. And I want outcomes that are proportionate. You, on your other hand, it's your job and the community's job to address that other issue. I can't do that.
Why not?
Because I'm only good at systems. That's what I'm an expert at.
But if more blacks are doing crack than whites or other races, you naturally going to have more blacks being arrested.
Well, we don't know, just for the record, we don't know any crime that's committed other than homicide. Crime is a measurement of what a police officer does, not what a citizen does, if that makes sense.
No.
So, all right, so if there's a bunch of guys on Wall Street right now doing cocaine, and we pretty much know that, but they're not getting arrested by the police because the police aren't there to mess with them. They have resources, they can have walls, they can have property. The cops aren't focused on them. So it's literally an action. It's a measurement of what a cop reports. So, I mean, right now, if I punch you in the face and there's no cops around, well, and you don't call the police, there's no documentation, well, there's no documentation of a crime.
So you're saying that citizens get away with crime all the time?
Of course, yes.
but still, that doesn't prove racism.
No. I'm not saying it does. I didn't say the amount of people. I said the level of the dealer. So they ended up going really heavy at poorer people or people that were black than they would if they were white because white people had cocaine and black people had crack at that time.
No, it's not because white people had cocaine. It was because white people didn't stand on the street and smoke crack.
Sure.
They did it in their offices or behind closed doors.
But the reason they had the offices...
Because they could afford it.
Exactly.
And blacks can't afford it.
Right.
Because blacks don't work.
But as a
blacks
cop...
are on the government.
As a cop, I don't care.
You gotta be on the street doing crack.
But I don't care as a cop. I care about finding all crime.
Also, the murder rate went up in the black community, too.
Sure.
As a result of crack cocaine.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. You can have good intentions. You can say, I want to go into this to take these people off the street to make this neighborhood better.
Right.
But if you do something that actually makes it worse to make it better, you end up in a weird situation where you're kind of in a circle.
But it's not racism.
Not racism. It's a racist outcome.
Okay. Whatever.
But just, example. So right now, Harvard. So Harvard makes it harder for Asians to get in than it does for blacks and whites. That's a racist outcome. It didn't have racist intent, but it has a racist outcome.
We had a discussion about that in that whenever I go to universities now to speak or if I'm watching the news and I see a lot of black people at a university, I don't believe that they got there because they earned it. They only got there because of affirmative action. Blacks are not smart enough and they don't work hard enough to earn their way. Is because of the color. Do you see it that way too?
Yeah, that's a very cognizant observation, and this happens with women in any kind of diversity.
Yeah.
So we make a big mistake, and the data around the world says that governments and institutions and stuff that are diverse run and operate better. But the diversity is a symptom of their running better. It is not the cause. So what we try to do is we try to force the women, force the diversity, and then that lowers the quality and does exactly what you're saying. It makes people, justified or not, or whether it's reality or not, it makes you look at the black student like they didn't earn their path there.
That's right. Also, I noticed that women are not earning their way either. They're getting into these positions only because they're women, not because they're smarter, not because they work harder. It's only because they're women.
Yeah, I mean, of course that happens, and they also will use weapons in a different way. It's
Yeah.
an example of why I had a problem with the Pound Me Too movement, was that the liberals are supposed to be pro-feminism, but what about all the women that have every desire to sleep their way up to the top? They just, isn't that their right?
That's right. So you now like the great white hope, Donald Trump. You support the president.
I would support any president, but this particular one, I think his effectiveness and what he's doing was very necessary for this country. And I think his rhetoric, the thing that people criticize most about him, is his rhetoric, which means it's kind of like a troll of the most obvious nature, that if you're focused on his rhetoric and not what he's actually doing,
Right.
then you're completely unprincipled. Right now, he is definitely the best path I have seen to criminal justice reform.
Yeah.
He is the best path I've seen to immigration reform. He's the best path I've seen to a lot of the issues we need. I mean, come on, if there's peace between North Korea and South Korea, over, done deal. That is a legacy.
That's right.
That if you're in denial of that, you're living on a different planet.
And you agree with me that the great white hope is a fair and honest person?
I think it would seem to be that case.
Yeah. And so you supported the fallen Messiah, right? At one time, Barack Obama.
No, never.
You never supported Obama?
No.
You didn't vote for Obama?
No, I voted for Mitt Romney, Jill Stein.
Really?
Yeah.
And why not the fallen Messiah and Big Mama?
Well, we didn't get the vote for Big Mama, but so
She ran things.
I felt that he was a character, like he was obvious. He's too perfect. And when I felt like that was I'm like, if this dude is so perfect on stage, like if that's the Antichrist, that's what it comes in looking like.
Wow.
So
I'm surprised to hear you say this.
he was also my boss. So you got to remember the whole.
Oh, yeah, being a police officer.
So the whole time that I'm trying to explain why these systems are racist and their outcomes, and I will fight any of you tooth and nail to the day trying to get everybody to understand that. But he was the one implementing that. He was the one telling me to do that. He was the one telling all of my bosses to do that. And Eric Holder, everybody else that had that same kind of image, and the Clintons before then. That I believe that is the white neoliberal that Malcolm X was trying to warn everybody about so desperately.
What do your little liberal atheist friends say about this changing you?
I think they've been along slowly, so it's not a big deal. I mean, they argue with me. They think I'm a Trump supporter, obviously, like that. But I mean, yeah, I'm a supporter of our president doing good things, and of course, I want our nation to do good. Yes, our president should be a nationalist.
Are you a nationalist?
Of course.
Wow. Let me take a break.
Okay.
Can I hold you over?
Sure.
I want to tell the folks about your book, so I need to take a break. Back in a moment, folks. I want to get back to Michael Wood Jr. He is a former Baltimore police officer, police management scholar, speaker, U.S. Marine Corps veteran, and the author of Crime and Punishment in the 21st Century. And normally we don't have guests on Fridays, but Michael is in town, and I really wanted him to come in at least for half hour or so to talk to him. Next time we have to keep him on an hour, unless we end up doing it today. We'll see. Michael, tell the folks how to get your book, Crime and Punishment in the 21st Century.
Well, this is your copy right here, Jesse.
Oh, thank you, man. Did you sign it?
No, but I will if you'd like me to, sure. So what happened, you can get it on Amazon. The best thing to do to connect with anything is to go through my publisher, imembermedia.com.
Oh, we have it up there. Okay.
But the real reason behind that, the whole book and why we got into it is I've realized a lot of what I was arguing, and most arguments that people have, we think we're arguing about the wall or about the president, but
Yes.
what we're actually arguing about is worldviews and your philosophy of how you even arrive at truth. So I had to go back and write all the philosophy of why the policing system is what I say we need to do, why I'm having these things, like what are basics. So the first chapter is talking with free will and anatomy, whether we can do any of those things. I get into gun control, whether we should be policing prostitution, and why these things are. Because if I just argue about prostitution, we get caught up in prostitution instead of figuring out the philosophy of how we should be approaching crime and societal transgressions, period. So you can go on Audible Audible, and you can also get it whether you want to hear it. And I do some podcasting where I talk about it for free and stuff. I'm not trying to make money. I'm trying to get information out.
Amazing. How do people get your podcast?
The easiest thing to is always to go to the publisher, but I have a YouTube page, and I have a. You can go to any of your podcast apps and just type Michael Wood Jr. and you'll find all of them, or iMember Media, and you'll find them.
You mentioned something during the break. That is, there's no such thing as race.
Right.
And explain to the people what you told me during the break.
Well, basically what happened is race is a social construct. So we have a lot of these things in life that are social constructs that we abide by and accept like they mean something, but they really don't. Another example is money. Money is a social construct. It doesn't actually have any value to it. It's only valuable because we both accept this as an exchange essentially for our time.
Right.
So race is another one of those issues where it was created by power to divide people. And most societies around the world still today don't really know what you're talking about when you talk about the racial tensions that exist in America. And that's because in America, race was intentionally created in a Virginia law in 1667 because we get caught up in a lot of the slavery talk. But at the very beginning of this country in the early 1600s, white people were slaves. There were Irish slaves. There were Polish slaves. And there were black slaves all here together. They were all slaves. And as power became more westernized, European and white, then they wanted to keep some of the slaves, but not all of the slaves. So they just started creating race in a 1667 law in Virginia that began to divide whites from the Irish and the Italians that were also slaves.
That's amazing.
So that's what we continue with today. So the reason I fight it all the time is that I believe that's one of the key tribalisms. And I know you do that, and I know it's part of your identity because we kind of been taught that that's our identity. But it's really only somebody else's perception. So nobody knows you from there. There are dudes in India that look black. There are guys in Australia that look what we would consider an American black. But nobody knows who you are by looking at you and where you're from. So it's really about somebody else's perception. And every time you're doing that, you're essentially telling people that are more powerful than you, you're right, I'm going to classify myself as something other than you as well. I'll play along with the game. So I really wish we would get past the whole race concept as a form of tribalism that makes us fight.
You've just proven my point even more so that there is no such thing as racism. It's a made-up lie, and it is to divide and conquer. Well, it's a spiritual battle between good and evil, right or wrong. You're either on the side of right or you're on the side of wrong. You represent one or the other, and color doesn't have anything to do with it. Being a male or female doesn't have anything to do with it. It's the heart. Your heart is for evil or your heart is for good. That's amazing. You know, I was wondering, why do you look different to me, right? You don't look the same, but then I look at this picture. You always had a short haircut.
Oh, yeah, my wife did that. She's been like, come on, grow it out a little bit longer. So I was like, all right.
You listen to your wife?
When it comes to how I look, if it makes her love me more, sure. I'll take her. If you think you're
beta,
a laid beta.
Do you miss this cut? This is manly.
No, this is manly too. What is wrong with you?
This is an alpha.
This is manly.
All right.
This is alpha.
I'm gonna hold you.
Look at those scrawny ass arms.
Can you stay and take some calls?
Of course.
We'll take some calls when we come back. Back in a moment. So the first time Michael was in studio, he got so angry at me, he would not take a picture at the end of the show. And you apologize, right?
I did.
You apologize now.
I do. I apologize. I'm sorry.
Beta!
That was a beta moment. I'll agree.
What is it like to be a beta male?
I don't think in that moment I realized it.
So let's take some calls real fast here. Live chat comment. A question from live chat. Good morning, YouTube Live. Is family a social construct?
Yeah, and so we briefly hit this on break, and so in case you don't respond surprised. So basically, yeah, family is definitely a social construct. It's something that we've created as a concept of what will be good for us. What's valuable there is, yeah, that's a beneficial social construct. We don't want to get rid of beneficial social constructs. U.S. currency, being a social construct, is a beneficial social construct that we want to maintain. And family would also be one. We have tons of data that support that children end up having better results when they have two parents in the household and they have that traditional family structure. So yeah, that's something you should basically want to maintain in this society.
Family was created and ordained by God, not human beings.
By your perspective, yes.
By mine, okay.
Yeah, I would also say God was created by human beings, but
I mean, so do you believe? You don't believe there is a God?
no, I would have no reason to think so.
We'll have you back.
Okay.
That will change too. Another quick live chat. It's a comment, but different people have different skull shapes and testable cognitive abilities on an average by racial group.
Yeah, that's a claim that's not supported by evidence. They do have, so say the IQ test, but like they'll say, oh, different races have different results in IQ tests. But IQ, it's about the culture. It's about not about the race. So if an African huntsman developed a test that he thought was one for intelligence, well, we would do really, really bad at that test. So the IQ test is a measurement in white Western culture. So if you're out of Western culture, yeah, you're not going to do very well on that test. When it comes to the physical characteristics of people, those things are actually interspersed amongst all the other races just as much as they are anyone else. You have just as much difference. Me and you have just as much difference as me and any traditional white-looking guy that you put out there. Those things aren't attributable to geography as we think. There's a paper on this where they've broken this down by DNA and what it is. And so there is something there, but it is of your DNA, 7.4% of it can be locked down to geographies, and only 1% of the people in those geographies have that allele. So if race is anything, it is 1% of 7.4% of the entire population. So it's statistically irrelevant.
Do you miss being a police officer?
Of course.
Amazing, man. Did your parents correct you, Michael?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know whether it was out of choice though. We were poor, so I wanted things and my mom said no, but I don't know.
Oh, yeah. So the first hour is up already, but we have 2 more hours to go. And when I come back, I'm going to get to all of your calls. It's Open Line Friday. We're going to move a call. My friend Michael Wood Jr. was here in town. I had to have him on. I also want you to get his book, Crime and Punishment in the 21st Century, Michael Wood. It doesn't say Junior.
No, not that one doesn't.
Amazing. So, and they can get your book how?
Amazon, Audible, iMemberMedia.com.
Okay. We have a picture of it. We put it up there. Michael, I really appreciate you coming in, man.
Thanks. I really appreciate being here.
I need to ask you real fast. We have a minute left in this hour. You can go to JLP Talk and stay with me, folks. We will move your calls. Are you a passionate person?
Yeah, definitely. Maybe to a flaw at times.
Yeah. And do you still have anger?
No, I've never been one with anger. I think sometimes that gets confused with aggression.
Is it normal to be a passionate person?
It's not typical.
It's not typical?
Yeah, I don't know if normal is not really a...
Do you want to overcome that, being a passionate person?
No.
You like being passionate?
Yes.
Why?
It's made me good at what I do. So it made me a very good detective. It made me a very good Marine.
I recommend that you become a dispassionate person and become more
for my own
logical.
mental health. I agree with you. Yes.
Yeah, because it's passionate is based on emotions.
Sure.
It's based on how you think and how you feel about things, and that doesn't work. When you're a dispassionate person, it's based on logic and the truth and what is right.
Sure.
So you need to overcome that.
I understand your position.
So you're going to let that go, or you're going to hold it?
Probably not.
I'll have you back when you overcome that.
Okay.
Your wife is not going to like you for being a passionate person.
Oh, okay. We'll talk to her. I'll ask her today what she thinks about
Yeah,
that.
that's going to be like 2 women being married.
All right, I'll ask her.
Lesbians.
I'm interested to see what she'll say.
Yeah. I really appreciate you coming on, Michael, and I like the change that I see in you.
Thanks.
Not that I dislike the other one, because people have a right to be wrong.
I'll grant you that right, too. See me biting my tongue?
That's right. Anything else, Mike? Because I don't want to go to a call. We're about to run out of time for this hour.
No, I just think we all need to wake up and be a little bit more free thinking and be principled about what we do.
Yeah.
I mean, we're not going to believe all women because we're not going to believe all people at any point in
That's
time.
right.
We're not going to let races divide us. The tribalism is what sets us apart. As soon as you other somebody else, then you are guaranteeing that prejudice and problems are going to take place.
Amazing. There is a God. And he's changing Michael's life without Michael's realize that he is. Michael, thank you so much, man.
Thank you, Jesse.
Michael Wood Jr., make sure you pick up the book, folks. Really good book. Because I know, Michael, the book is good, all right? I'm going to read it.
Go read it.
I will
Please
read
do.
it. I definitely
And argue
will.
with me about it.
I will.
I like to be wrong.
I will. All right, I got to take a break. 2 more hours to go. When I come back, I'm going to move calls, all right? Open line Friday. Back in a moment.